What's up, everybody? Tricks Ridiculous back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be going over some of the key skills in the Nightwing skill tree. Now, I've said in my previous video that I do believe that Nightwing is the best character in the game, and I'm going to show you why in this skill tree. Before we do, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more Gotham Knights news, but otherwise, let's get right into it. Now, I'm not going to go over the whole skill tree. There's, it's very easy to just find a video on this whole skill tree and kind of just folks showing every single perk here. But the reason I like Nightwing, and what I kind of stated in my previous video, is mostly because of his momentum abilities, right? And if you don't know, momentum in this game is kind of similar to like your heroic abilities. When you build up momentum, you use it while you're evading and while you're dealing damage. Kind of everything you do like that builds up these momentum bars that you have, and then you can spend those momentum bars on various different heroic abilities that you can kind of fine-tune and spec your character with. Every character has different ones. Now, it's not so much that Nightwing's heroics or his momentum abilities are better than other characters, right? Because we don't really know all that information right now. However, the one thing that Nightwing does more than anyone is build momentum. He's the only character who gets an extra momentum bar right on his skill tree and has passive and active bonuses to his momentum buildup. In addition to that, he's got a lot of very floaty combat, and some of his actual abilities hit a lot harder than I think people are giving them credit for. So to just kind of go over some of the key skills in this skill tree, one of them here, so right here, Nightwing's Pounce ability, and that's one of his heroic abilities, and I'll try to find where it is, but it's essentially right over here, where you actually will just jump at an enemy from far away. You can see it on the screen there. You jump at an enemy from far away, hit them, kind of homes right in on them, and then you're able to kind of go up into the air, right? And what you compare that with, now you'll remember, we're going to be spamming that a lot because we're going to have a lot of momentum. What you're going to be pairing that with is right here. When you do use that pounce ability, you're followed up with a high jump. Now, it cannot be used in a low ceiling. So that's going to be one limitation. You're not going to be able to have that high-flying aerial combat with Nightwing if you're kind of doing an interior mission, or if you're kind of in like a really low lit. But I think, based on the height that we're seeing here and some of the areas, at least we've seen in the demo and some of the gameplay trailers, even indoor areas seem to have pretty wide open. I think they're really just saying if you're like in a very close corridor type place, you're probably not going to be able to do it. But what you'll be able to do with that as well is you're going to be able to pair that with this one right here, Aerial Bounce. Nightwing bounces off an enemy following an aerial attack that can propel himself back into the air, and it can be done 3 times in succession. Okay, now that's extremely powerful because you're going to be able to go, we don't know if you can do this on the same enemy, if the same enemy can be hit. Maybe if it's a boss, it can be hit 3 times in a row, so you can just kind of keep coming back in from the air on that same enemy. If not, you could still just hit 3 different enemies with this, and you can trigger all of this right off of your pounce ability. All right, now to pair with that as well, Nightwing's got this one skill tree right at the top of his acrobat tree that increases his aerial attack damage by 20%. All right, so you're instantly getting a 20% boost to that. But the other thing that a lot of people, he's got kind of the similar stuff that everyone has, which is your crit damage, your crit chance right on the first tree. But if you look at this one, hitting an enemy with a melee attack from a large distance increases crit chance and crit damage by 15%. And just based on some of the little details here in the info thumbnails that they show, it doesn't seem like that distance has to be overly high, right? And I think that would be a pretty reasonable distance if you're hitting an enemy going up in the air and kind of triggering down to enemies again. So you're going to get that increased crit chance with your aerial combat to go along with all this extra aerial damage. Now, in addition to that, like I mentioned, he gets an extra momentum bar right on his skill tree, as well as having increased momentum gains by 15%. In addition to that, now I don't think his evade chain is that stellar. We'll have to see if it's very useful in game, but I don't think that's anything really to write home about. When you use momentum abilities to restore a portion of his health, that could be okay. Not really anything to write home about. Now, right over here onto this pack leader tree. Now, in my previous video, I actually kind of said that support abilities are probably not going to matter too much in this game. However, I take that back because we know now that the game is going to have a 4-player co-op mode, Heroic Assault, that'll be coming out, okay, with various puzzles, and not necessarily a horde mode. I keep seeing people call it a horde mode. It is definitely more like a hive from Avengers. They said it's going to be just various kind of like a gauntlet of challenges, and you're going to go down levels, right? So it's almost like a tower type thing. We don't know if they're going to get harder every level. I hope they do. But either way, regardless, back to Nightwing, being able to play with 4 players makes Nightwing a lot better than I even thought he was going to be, right? Because you're going to get, with the skill tree right here, you're going to get working with allies grants him an additional bonus. Batgirl gives him 15% more melee. Red Hood gives him more ranged. And Robin gives him more stealth. Now, we don't know if you have 3 Batgirls on your team, if you're going to get 45% melee, or if it just counts once and you have to have all 3. We don't know that, right? But either way, it's better than nothing, right? And so you're going to be able to get multiple of these. In addition to that, he's also got defense bonuses here. And then check this one out. He's got a passive momentum regen, right? So his momentum regen stops after filling 1 momentum segment, but then gaining any momentum, which you get from literally any attack. So it just means that you can't go to full momentum when you're out of combat, but when you're in combat, once you get to a full momentum bar, all you have to do is hit somebody and it'll start that regeneration again until you get to the next one. And then that's in addition, of course, to the active momentum gains that you're going to get, right? And then working with allies increases the regeneration speed. Now, again, the numbers aren't here on this, right? We can't see exactly what numbers are put on this, but if that stacks, right? Because we know the main campaign of the game and the free playing stuff are just going to be 2-player co-op. So if there's a set amount that it increases that then jumps to 3 times, 4 times when you're in a 4-player game, if you can get 4x on your momentum gain here by having 4 players on your team, that's going to be sensational. And that's just speculation. We don't know that that's how it works, but either way, momentum gain, I think, is going to be extremely important in this game. I do believe that momentum abilities, and I think a lot of people are getting caught up on seeing things like, for example, Red Hood has like a random chance of 5 times damage, and when you aim down sights, you get 4 times damage. I don't think that those abilities are going to actually be that good at all, because they're going to take time and they're chance-based, right? So you aim down sights, you're going to have to wait. You have to wait a period of time, and then you do 4 times damage. You could just be shooting the whole time, right? So you're already losing DPS just to gain some DPS. I don't think it's going to be as good as people think. And I think people are getting caught up on that sort of stuff when really what you should be looking at are the momentum abilities. I think the momentum abilities are going to be really where you do your big damage. I think when DPS matters, I think it's really going to be the momentum abilities that differentiate, and being able to spam more of them, I think that's where you're going to see the biggest damage. So again, here he is. He gets all of that. And then he also has the other ability just for more of a support ability, right? So that's pretty much it from, his individual damage. I think, like I said, he's going to be very floaty. He's going to be able to hop, stay in the air, stay moving along the battlefield. He has a lot of distance. The best way I can describe it from what I've seen and from what I've seen in the skill tree, he has a lot of distance with melee, if that makes sense. So he's almost like a ranged melee character. He's able to still do melee damage, but he homes in on people and flies and covers large gaps and high distances with melee attacks, right? So he's almost like a ranged melee character in that regard. So I think he's going to be extremely dancy. He's going to be all over the battlefield. I think people are sleeping on him right now just in favor of characters like Red Hood and Robin. I think he's going to end up being the top character, even just based on those. But coming into the 4-player co-op, right, that's where I think a lot of his passive abilities, his support abilities are going to play a factor, starting with the big one right here. So passive skills, increasing damage, crit chance, defense, momentum regeneration, and ultimate cooldown are shared with allies at 50% of their value. Now, doesn't take a rocket scientist to quickly see that this is probably going to be the best skill in the game. All right. Especially in 4 players. Now, in a 2-player co-op, you're only sharing this with one other player. In a 4-player co-op, you have much more impact on the team by sharing this with all 4 players, right? So think of it, your damage, right? Which you're getting aerial damage, you're getting all sorts of different damage increases, crit chance, which we know we have, all characters have that, defense, which he has, momentum regeneration, which he has, no other character has it. He's going to share half of his with other characters, okay? So everyone on the team's momentum is going to be flying up. If you have a Nightwing on your team who is spec'd for all momentum regeneration, your momentum is going to be flying up and you don't even know it, okay? And ultimate cooldown, all right, are shared with allies at 50% of their value. And his ultimate cooldown, we didn't even get into that yet. We'll get into that in just a second of how powerful that is. But this skill alone, especially in 4-player co-op, sharing all of this with 3 additional players on your team is going to be absolutely busted. He's hands down the best support character. In addition, just to jump back a few skill trees, he has a pretty passive ability here. Here it is. It is an active ability, but you'll see here, Assassin's Mark marks an enemy, increasing Nightwing and his allies' damage to the foe by 10%. Pretty straightforward. You literally looks like you just aim in and kind of mark a target. Looks like it can be used over and over again on multiple targets. May not be good for crowd control, but for single target, for big bads, right, and bosses. Again, if it was just 2-player co-op, I wouldn't say that this is overly amazing. But if you're marking a target, excuse me, and 4 different players are dealing damage all at 10% more damage for all of them, that is a sizable damage increase for the team for single target. So I think Assassin's Mark is going to be an absolute staple for single target damage, boss DPS, especially in these 4-player encounters. All right, now moving a little more forward, he is able to also heal enemy or allies. I believe it's with one of these. Here we go. His darts inflict elemental damage buildup over time or can heal allies. You can actually shoot your allies and heal them. We don't know the amount of healing, so we'll have to see, in game, but nice that he has that and you don't really run out of darts. You have unlimited darts that you can shoot. So that could be pretty interesting. I know that they have to be closer. They do more damage when they're closer to enemies, so they probably heal more when they're closer, but we'll have to see when it comes out. And then once per night, he can also, here we go, used from afar, he can actually revive any ally from afar once per night. Now, we don't know really what once per night means. I assume that's once per mission. I don't know if that means once per floor in the multi-floor thing. We'll have to see exactly what that means, but basically he has a revive for the team. And I didn't even talk upon this other ability here. Darts reduce enemies' defense by 10%, increase damage inflicted by allies by 5%. So basically a defense decrease and damage increase both for all allies, right? So pair that with the mark plus this, 4 players, you're going to be, you have to have a Nightwing on your team. You have to have one. He's going to be the most important on the team for his team play in 4-player co-op. And then coming over to his ultimate ability, okay, now this is where it gets even spicier. So he's got a couple things he's got in the Knighthood skill tree. He's got this here, which you'll see melee attacks can strike enemies from further away. I think that's going to be a must pick, right? We already know from his Raptor tree that he gets extra crit chance and damage attacking enemies from, a longer distance. And we don't know if this is going to also apply to his aerial attacks, if he can really chain those even further, which I think will be absolutely mandatory if you're going to be spamming those. But coming to his support abilities, check this one out. Defeating an enemy reduces Nest ability cooldown by 15%. Now, that's his ultimate ability, okay? That ability has a 5-minute cooldown, all right? 5 minutes. And you reduce it by 15%? You reduce it by about 50 seconds, a little over, just a little under a minute reduction. Every enemy that you kill, right? Literally every enemy that you kill, 15% comes off of that. Now, remember as well, so the Nest ability, if you haven't seen it, it's essentially and I apologize, I know I'm jumping around a bit. It's essentially a heal field, right? It's kind of like Hawkeye's recovery arrow. It's a big nest around yourself and your allies, granting a huge defense bonus and healing over time, and also inflicts damage over time to any enemies inside it. So if you have kind of a stationary large target, maybe a boss, you can say, as your Nightwing on the team can just call out to the team, I'm putting a nest right on him. You put the nest right on the guy. Everyone can lay right in, right? Everyone can come close range, go to town on him. They're going to get increased defense and healing, so they can tank anything the enemy does. They're going to be all clustered up, and the enemy, while they stay in the nest, is going to take increased damage. They're going to take damage over time, right? So pair that with everything else, and you're going to be having that. You're going to be able to put that down and absolutely increase the entire team's effectiveness. Now, like I said, defeating an enemy reduces that cooldown by 15%. You're going to be putting that out all the time, and the real creme de la creme is come right back over here. Ultimate cooldown shared with allies at 15% of their value. So you're getting 15% off of your cooldown of your ultimate every enemy that you kill, and all of your allies, all 3 of your allies, are going to get 7% off of their ultimates, 7.5% off of their ultimates, because they get shared at 50%. That's going to be absolutely huge. The difference between having a Nightwing and not having a Nightwing with these passive support abilities, I mean, it's night and day. It's, no pun intended, it's absolutely ridiculous. The buffs that he provides to the team are sensational. Absolutely sensational. So overall, I mean, that's pretty much everything I have. Other than that, the only other things he really has are just like, different increased size of the nest and increased damage effectiveness of the nest. That's pretty much it, and healing effects. But honestly, guys, I can't even, like, Nightwing, just the momentum abilities, being able to spam them, being able to glide all over the battlefield, get all your momentum back, right? Be able to spam those abilities. That alone makes him, in my opinion, probably one of the best individual characters. And then when you turn in the pack leader ability, especially for those times where you're playing that 4-player co-op, he might not be as good in just 2-player co-op, but in the 4-player co-op, everything I just described with all those different cooldowns, the momentum gains, damage, sharing that all with your allies, as well as the multiple different ways he has to mark targets to have them take more damage. He's an absolute must pick, I think, on any 4-player co-op team. I think you have to have him. And I think even just as an individual character, I think players are going to have a ton of fun spamming his abilities. I think people are going to realize he is going to be insanely powerful as an aerial combat expert. Those are my thoughts. And again, this is all being said without having actually played the game. And like I mentioned, with some of these abilities, they don't all have percentages and numbers on them, so we'll have to see exactly how some of them work once the game does launch. But I can tell you, Nightwing's going to be my main. I'm going to be doing 4-player, heroic assaults with viewers, and I will be probably most likely bringing in Nightwing for most missions. So, we'll see how it goes. I think he's going to be the best, but let me know. Let me know down in the comments. Let me know what character you're playing, why you think. If you agree that you think Nightwing is a boss, or if you feel a different character might be better, let me know why down in the comments. Anyway, that's it. Be sure, again, to like the video, subscribe if you're new for more Gotham Knights content. That's it for me, guys. I'll see you in the next one.